I ended things with my boyfriend right before we moved in together. I broke down in my car, and his mom tried to stop me from leaving. I, 22F, had been in a relationship with my now ex-boyfriend, 23M, for 8 years. We met in high school and somehow managed to stay together through everything. We've changed and matured together, and our relationship has always been great. We communicated well, had long-running inside jokes, and grew comfortable in each other's company. Honestly, our relationship seemed perfect in a lot of ways, but if it was as perfect as I thought, I wouldn't be sharing this story. As we entered our 20s, I began asking him more serious questions about our future. I wanted to know if he saw us having the same long-term goals. I'd ask about kids. He wasn't keen on them, but I always knew I wanted a family. I was told by others to be patient, that he might change his mind as we got older, and I tried to take that advice to heart. I also asked about his career plans and how he felt about himself, what he envisioned for his life moving forward. Each time we discussed these topics, it felt like the conversation came to a halt. His responses were short, filled with, "I don't know," and "I need to think about it." I'd always end up asking multiple times before I got any sort of answer. He would eventually give me something after reflecting for a while, but these conversations became a routine. I'd bring up these big, important questions, and he would give me minimal feedback and ask for time to think. Yet, despite these awkward conversations, life would carry on. The next day would come, and we'd go back to being happy together, watching Netflix, going out for romantic dinners, cuddling, and enjoying each other's company. We'd even joke about what kind of pets we'd have in the future, or what our dream home might look like. In those moments, I could push my concerns aside, and everything felt good again. But those unanswered questions started to weigh on me. Why didn't he ever ask me about these things? Why didn't he seem as concerned about our future as I was? I tried to rationalize it, telling myself that we were still young and it was okay for him to take his time figuring things out. But after being together for 8 years, the uncertainty started to gnaw at me. I was tired of waiting for clarity. We had even started discussing marriage and looking for a place to live together. Whenever I pushed my worries aside, it felt like everything was fine. We talked about what we'd name our future pets, what shows we'd watch together, and how we'd design our home. I convinced myself that if I just stayed patient and supportive, everything would fall into place. After all, we had been together for this long. Why wouldn't we continue to grow together? But deep down, I knew things weren't progressing the way they should. Last weekend, everything changed. We went to look at apartments, and as I walked through each place, imagining us living together, something inside me just snapped. I looked around at the kitchen and the bedroom we'd share, and instead of feeling excitement, I felt dread. After one of our appointments, we had a sweet moment where we cuddled and napped together, but when I left and got into my car, I broke down. I started sobbing uncontrollably. I drove home in tears and immediately called my mom. When she came over, I just let it all out. I was completely broken. It felt like something had died inside me, and I realized I couldn't ignore it any longer. I knew I needed to break up with him. I realized that the things I wanted from him, answers, commitment, direction, were things he wasn't able to give. I had been patient for so long, but even when he gave me answers, they weren't the ones I needed. The silence, the avoidance, and the lack of certainty had finally gotten to me. I thought we could get through anything together, but moving in together made me see things clearly. I wasn't ready to take that step with him. Earlier this year, he told me he was okay with having kids, and at the time, I was so relieved that it overshadowed everything else. But now, I wonder if he only said that to keep me happy. Did he really mean it? Or was it just another way to avoid the issue? He often told me that I was the best thing to ever happen to him, that I inspired him to be better. He loved me. And after being together for so long, he didn't know how to date anyone else. But I wished he had more drive, more excitement for life. I wished he had goals and dreams. I wanted him to work on his anger and approach his problems with an open mind. I wanted him to be more emotionally available. I knew I couldn't ask him to change, though. That wouldn't be fair to him, and it wouldn't be right for me to stay in a relationship that wasn't fulfilling my needs. But how could I break up with someone I'd been with for 8 years? His family adored me, and they'd all turn on him if we split. We'd been talking about marriage, we were looking at apartments, and yet here I was, on the verge of ending it all. But my gut was telling me this was the right thing to do, and I knew I had to listen to it. Update. The conversation happened on Friday, a day earlier than planned. After writing my post and talking with friends and family, I realized I couldn't keep waking up every day with this weight on my chest. The pain was unbearable, and I knew I had to end it. He had been texting me as usual all week, completely unaware of what was coming. It made things so much harder. I didn't want to lie or lead him on, so I kept my responses brief. When I asked if we could meet on Friday, he happily agreed. I went over to his house after running a few errands with my brother, who joked about driving the getaway car and said he'd pick me up when it was all over. When I arrived, his family was decorating the house for Christmas. His mom asked me to help with some garland on the front porch, and my heart was in my throat the whole time. After a few minutes, I excused myself and went inside to find him. He was still in his pajamas, completely relaxed. I asked if we could talk privately in his room, and he agreed. He hugged me tightly, rubbing my back. And I almost broke down right there. We went upstairs, and I gave him one last big hug. Then I took a deep breath and began. I told him how much pain I had been in since we started looking at apartments. I said that I didn't think we should live together, and that I didn't think we should be together anymore. I explained that it wasn't his fault, that he hadn't done anything wrong, but that something in our relationship wasn't working for me. I told him that moving in together wasn't the right choice for us, and I couldn't commit to him the way I thought I could. I apologized over and over. He was completely shocked. He asked why I was doing this, saying he thought everything was perfect. He asked what we were supposed to do now. I tried to keep the conversation going, saying that I wanted to talk things through since we'd been together for so long, but instead of responding, he got up, changed out of his pajamas, grabbed his backpack, and left. I was stunned. His mom called out to him for help with the Christmas decorations as he walked past, but he didn't stop. He told me he'd see me at a Friendsgiving we had planned for Saturday and walked out the door. The weight of what I had just done hit me like a truck. Every rational, logical reason I had for breaking up with him vanished, and I felt like the worst person in the world. I quickly put on my shoes and ran downstairs. His mom called out to me asking for more help, but I ignored her and ran out of the house. I called my brother, who arrived almost immediately. As soon as I got in the car, I completely broke down. The sobbing was loud, uncontrollable, and heartbreaking. My brother held my hand the entire ride home. That was by far the hardest thing I've ever done. But even through the tears, I knew it was the right decision. Now, it's Monday, and I can confidently say that breaking up with him was the right choice. After the initial pain and heartbreak, I've realized that I needed to do this for myself. I feel a sense of relief, and for the first time in a long time, I'm excited about what the future holds for me. Edit. I'm honestly overwhelmed by the responses I've received. Even though some people don't agree with my decision, I appreciate every comment. I've read them all, and they've helped me process everything. Thank you so much for your support.
Story 2. Discovered my friends filming themselves assaulting my blacked-out drunk girlfriend at her graduation party. They called it a joke, harassed us for weeks, and tried to turn her against me. I've been with my girlfriend Samantha for about a year. We've built a really strong relationship, and I love her deeply. On the other hand, I've been friends with Alex and Megan for 2 years. We met through a larger group of friends, and over time, we became very close. In fact, they seemed to hang out with Samantha more than me at times. Once, they even joked that if Samantha and I ever broke up, they'd take her side without a doubt. Let me cut to the main issue. Samantha recently graduated from college, and she wanted to celebrate. To set the context, she barely drinks. In the whole time I've known her, she's maybe had a drink once or twice, and usually that's because my group of friends convinced her to. She doesn't handle alcohol well either. She's tiny and has zero tolerance. That's important to remember for what happens next. Alex and Megan invited Samantha to their place for her graduation celebration while I was working, so I couldn't join. The plan was that they would pick her up, and I'd head over after my shift to pick her up so she wouldn't have to drive drunk or stay the night. I trusted them and knew they were experienced drinkers, so I thought everything would be fine. I got off work around 2 a.m. and went over to their place. By that point, I could tell Samantha was drunk based on the sloppy texts I was getting from her. I assumed she'd had too much to drink, and I was ready to take care of her when I arrived. But when I got to their house, I walked into something horrifying. Samantha was passed out on the ground. Megan was on top of her, making out with her, and Alex was standing there, recording the whole thing on his phone. I lost it. I immediately confronted them, asking what the hell was happening. I grabbed Alex's phone, deleted all the pictures and videos, and demanded an explanation. Alex just laughed and said it was all a joke, that they were planning to show Samantha the pictures in the morning as a prank. I picked Samantha up. She was so drunk she couldn't even stand on her own, and we left. Samantha was in bad shape. She was throwing up, couldn't see straight, and crying nonstop. Meanwhile, Alex and Megan had been stone cold sober the entire time. I was furious, but my priority was getting Samantha to bed and taking care of her, which I did throughout the night. Not long after we left, Megan texted me, telling me not to be mad and that it was just a joke. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I replied that they had taken advantage of Samantha, to which Megan admitted they had but claimed it was in a friendly way, saying they wanted her to let loose since she always studies so hard. I didn't even bother replying after that and spent the night making sure Samantha was okay. The next day, things got even worse. Alex and Megan started bombarding Samantha with messages, blaming her for the entire situation. They said she was an adult who should be responsible for her own actions, and they made it clear they didn't care about what I thought. They accused her of being the one who pressured them into making the video and called me a controlling jerk for being angry about the situation. Samantha was torn. She spent the day crying, feeling guilty one minute and angry the next. She couldn't remember much from that night and started to believe maybe it was somehow her fault. But I knew the truth. She had been so drunk she couldn't even stand, let alone consent to anything. Meanwhile, Alex and Megan continued to belittle both of us, claiming that I was overreacting to a harmless prank and that Samantha had instigated everything. Update. Over the next few days, Alex and Megan kept harassing Samantha, blaming her for the situation and feeding her lies. They told her she had pressured them into the video, and that I was lying to isolate her from her real friends. They even brought up stories from my past, like how I experimented with drugs when I was younger, or how I was arrested for drunk driving when I was 18, things Samantha already knew about and accepted. They tried to paint me as a party boy who didn't truly care about her, and it hurt that they used my past against me like this. I eventually convinced Samantha to go to the police and file a report. She agreed, but before we could do anything, Alex and Megan went off the rails. They started showing up at our house, unannounced, leaving gifts and handwritten notes at our door, trying to win Samantha back over. They even got her parents involved by sending letters signed, "Love, your favorite son and daughter." It was completely bizarre and only made things worse. Samantha's parents, thankfully, are not easily fooled. Once I explained what had happened, they banned Alex and Megan from their home and threatened to call the police if they showed up again. That seemed to stop them, at least for a while. Samantha has been struggling to come to terms with what happened. She's been racked with guilt and confusion, constantly asking if it was her fault for getting so drunk. It's been heartbreaking to watch, but I keep reminding her that none of this was her fault. She's been going to therapy now and is starting to understand that she was assaulted, though it's been a slow process. When we went to the police, Samantha decided not to press charges, at least for now. She wanted to make sure there was a report on file, just in case they tried anything in the future. The officers told her that if she ever chose to press charges, they could confiscate Alex and Megan's phones and search for the video, as they had admitted to taking advantage of her in the text messages. For now, Samantha just wants to move on. We've cut all contact with Alex and Megan, and we've distanced ourselves from anyone in our group who believes their lies. Samantha is slowly healing, and while she's still considering a restraining order, for now, they've gone quiet. I can only hope it stays that way. The hardest part for Samantha has been letting go of the guilt. She still feels like if she hadn't gotten so drunk, none of this would have happened. I keep reminding her that she did nothing wrong, but it's a long process. I support her in whatever decision she makes, whether it's pressing charges or not, and I'll continue to stand by her side. So that's where we are now. The whole situation has been surreal, and I still can't fully comprehend why Alex and Megan acted the way they did after that night. Their behavior has been beyond disturbing, and I'm just glad we're starting to move on from it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed our stories and would like to hear more, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us continue bringing you captivating tales and new content every week. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. We appreciate every one of you for being a part of our storytelling journey.